was a knock on our apartment door, and my father went to answer it. The Gestapo grabbed him and took him away.
Where did they take him, Siegbert?
To Buchenwald concentration camp.
What did they do to your father at Buchenwald, Siegbert?
Well, from the first moment they took him, my mother started fighting to get him released. Then before he could send for us, the war broke, and my mother and I were put into munitions factories to turn out shells for the Nazis.
How long did you stay in this munitions factory?
Until one night they stopped me from going home. I knew it was coming because of something that had happened the day before. They had taken my mother to a concentration camp from which she never returned. I knew that if I didn't escape, then I'd be dead. So when the guard on my truck wasn't looking, I managed to jump off, and since it was nighttime, he didn't see me. Then I made my way to the suburbs of Berlin, where a Catholic family who had been friends of my father's and mother's gave me shelter.
How long did you stay there?
They kept me hidden in their house for 2.5 years, Mr. Bolton, through the rest of the war. And then Germany was defeated.
Then you came to America.
That's right.
In all this time, you haven't seen your father who's been over there in Shanghai?
No, sir.
Do you think that you'd know him after all these years? You know, you were just a young boy when you last saw him.
I'm sure I would, Mr. Bolton. A son always remembers his father.
Well, now, Siegbert, we want you to turn around to see if you know him. Ladies and gentlemen, that's really a touching scene. These father and son got each other in their arms. This elderly gentleman is really broken down with emotion that he can't speak. And the son, of course, tears of joy are going down their cheeks. And believe me, gentlemen and ladies that are listening to me now, I have never seen such a touching scene in all my life.
That was a radio show called StoryCorps that was on, mid 20th century, and that was detailing Sigurd Freibert, Sigurd Freibert, who had been separated from his parents. His mother died, but he was reunited with his father years later in the United States in a made-for-TV moment, which, made-for-radio moment. And I have always kind of thought when you hear, like, there's like a wail that you can hear. One, I don't know if it's Freiberg or Elder or Junior, but I've always thought that wail was like really hurts to hear. So I thought, hey, let's start tonight off with something that hurts to hear. But it's a good reminder, it hasn't been a great week. Just about an hour ago, they declared they were no longer search and rescuing the building in Surfside. It is now a recovery operation, which I think they were that's kind of tacitly admitting that. I think even when they did the controlled demolition, even though, they say this controlled demolition is so that the workers can reach places that were in danger of collapsing. But it's very difficult for me, at least, and I realize this is not my area of expertise. I'm talking out of my ass, but this is what I do. It's very difficult for me to see that it could be like, okay, let's blow up the rest of the building, but we're pretty sure it's not going to hurt anyone who's still trapped down there. So it's pretty sad. It's extremely sad that the 100 and basically they're admitting the 100 and some odd people have very little to no chance of survival, which sucks and makes you, like we kind of talked about last week, what is going to be next? Where is going to be next? Don't know. This is true, Nicholas. So I still have some of the lingering effects of that scooter fall, which it's been a week and a half. I think you can all see my hands are much better. Very little. I don't really have apart from like this knuckle here a little bit still, which I think might have gotten infected a bit, the only thing that I still have is this bruised rib. So it is still a bit difficult for me to speak with force, to project. I can whisper, okay, I can talk like this. Fine, that's okay. But if I have to, like at work today, I had an hour-long meeting where I had to speak and be on top of my game. And at the end of it, I was like, kind of, first of all, like losing my breath. Not because I'm not short of breath, but when you're in pain, when you inhale, it makes you not want to breathe so much. So it was crap. But I wanted to come on, and there's actually a couple things tonight I want to talk about or get into with y'all. And one of those things is reading out your stories. Something that hit me rather late in the game for me to realize this. Most of the submitted stories were very close to the 4,000 word mark. Overwhelmingly closer to the 4,000 word mark than the 2,000. The over-under on that was nuts. It was like people 3,980 words, right? Just going over 4,000, like that kind of thing. It was now 4,000 words. If you're reading it in a normal cadence, can take anywhere between a half hour and 45 minutes. And I realize we can all read 4,000 words really quick, but it's no fun to read that aloud like that. So for a proper reading for these stories, the majority of them are going to be 30 minutes to an hour. So we can't very well do a lot of them, but I figured we could do a couple. And I want to randomly pick both the readees and the readers, if this is something that you all are interested in. We can do that. Let's do this first, though. Well, I was out of town for a bit. SJ and I went to Harper's Ferry. Those of you might know, Harper's Ferry is where the infamous kind of like weirdly, benignly psychotic evangelist John Brown had his fatal standoff with Robert E. Lee. Actually, was actually in charge of the militia that ended up killing John Brown's son, and then taking John Brown to prison, and where he was hung by the neck until dead. So we were at Harper's Ferry, which is, one of those cities that's a nexus city, right? Just West Virginia, and then Virginia, and Maryland, and Pennsylvania, I think. Pennsylvania. Basically, like you're at the crux of many states. There were a few things that were clear from that trip to Harper's Ferry. I've been to Harper's Ferry before. I think it's very picturesque. It's beautiful. It's a very nice, small area. Like really, the strip is maybe, 10 blocks, something like that. Maybe a dozen blocks. And they have the remnants of the fort, the armory that John Brown took over, where he made his stand, where he was trying to secure armaments for freed slaves. And a little bit like, so SJ is Canadian, as probably a lot of you know. So she wasn't familiar with John Brown. We watched a bit of the Good Lord Bird, which is Ethan Hawke doing a pretty good portrayal of an insane person. I don't know how accurate it really is to John Brown, but like you look at like the daguerreotypes of John Brown, and you can kind of see something in the eyes. There's something there in the eyes. So let's take a quick look at an old, as opposed to the many new photos that exist of John Brown. Let's take a look at one of the older photos that are often. This one, I think this is actually one that was featured. Yeah, you gotta get to when he's a little bit older, and he just, man, whoo, what the, wow, this is, I don't know if this is supposed to be crazy. Look, I don't know. I don't want to badmouth something I don't know, but like this is definitely. Here we go. Not a person, and you know, along with his evangelical belief in the Lord, he basically, you know, he was on a religious crusade to free slaves, and when his sons were like, "Well, we're gonna die," his response was, "Yeah, you're gonna die, but you'll die fighting for a righteous cause. But yeah, y'all are gonna die, definitely, yeah." And I think some of that is like the harshness of the times back then. I don't know how many children he had who died of dysentery. It was just, I mean, it was Oregon Trail made flesh. But anyway, so yeah, Harper's Ferry, very, very picturesque. The John Brown Museum is one of the, I respect John Brown. Everything he did, I think is wonderful. The John Brown Wax Museum is hilarious. I'm sorry. It just is not, it is A for effort, I think, is what you can say about the John Brown Wax Museum. Woefully outdated. So what it's done in the style of it. So it's put in a row house. So it's necessarily space constrained. So when you walk through it, you do it in such a way that you're going upstairs and then you're essentially going around. It's almost like a Disneyland dark ride, but you're walking through this very, very narrow row house, and then you'll get these sort of shadow box type scenes that light up, and then there'll be a little bit of maybe history. You hit a button and you'll hear some history being read out, you know, if it works, which the grand finale of seeing John Brown hung by the neck was out of order when we were there, so weren't able to get the grand finale. But it's something else. It's certainly worth the $8 for the ticket. Let's see here. We got, is this one here? I want to be sure I'm doing the right one. There's an order that must be followed. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So this is, you know, you come up the stairs and you're presented with this kind of window box. And I like this because, and I mentioned this at the time, you come up the stairs and immediately you see this woman, young woman, looking off to the side, somewhere you cannot see, and it draws your eye, and you're like, well, I wonder what's going on around the corner there. She's sort of eavesdropping, peeping, whatever you call it. And then, of course, it would be, a lot of them would be scenes of John Brown with a bunch of other, usually, white men, a couple of African-American people as well. And it would just be them like posed like this. And it would say, here you see John Brown speaking with two of his sons and some of his ragtag riders just before they went to raid the armory in Harper's Ferry. And then it would be like, next one would be, here you see John Brown shortly after you last saw John Brown, and you can see there are fewer people with him, and he frequently lost riders as they would go into battle because they were not as devout in their belief as he was. So we got this one. Let's see what else we got. Got this lovely one. So that is John Brown. Oh, crazy-eyed John Brown. And that's him in the armory where he suffered a sword slash to his face. He's cradling his son, one of his sons in his arms, who died in the attack. And that sort of was his last stand. He was tried. He was possibly mortally wounded. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess he recovered enough, right? Like they're not gonna be that brutal, especially to one of their own, right? Before they hang him with honor, they're gonna make sure he's recovered enough to be at his own trial. He was at his trial in bed, so then there was also a window box display of just John Brown lying in a cot, and this kind of slightly judgely looking figure behind him. It was interesting. We stayed at a bed and breakfast, which was a little ways away. One of the other things is another thing that became very obvious is, you see like these state readouts of, well, this state is at 50% vaccination, this state is at 48%, this state is at 35%. And it's kind of easy to be like, well, Virginia's pretty high, on balance. It's like 48.8% vaccinated, very close to 50% full vaccinated, and significantly higher single dose vaccinated. However, Virginia contains multitudes. And obviously, technically, Harper's Ferry is in West Virginia. It's right across the border. But even just, and the other thing is we had to drive through Sandy Hook, which didn't really realize that until we did it. Sandy Hook is right by Harper's Ferry. These very evocative names, if they're not Native American, then they're usually something like, Gettysburg, right? Like you have German, and then you have the Native American, and then you have the ones that are kind of described for what their function was, like Harper's Ferry was. But anyway, it became very clear, like as we were driving out west, that the bulk of the people making up that 48.8% vaccination percentage for the whole of the state of Virginia, they're mostly live in, Richmond, D.C. corridor, the eastern part of Virginia. You get out there near West Virginia, and I think you're seeing a lot more trucks with chrome testicles hanging from the trailer hitches and Confederate flags, etc. And the place was mobbed. It was really, really crowded. Very few masks on display. It was also really, really hot. Harper's Ferry is, at a nexus of where the Ohio River and the Potomac, I don't know if it's called the Potomac out there, but it's a nexus where there's kind of like where three rivers meet and branch into states. It was a strategically very important for the Civil War, but it's also essentially in a basin, so it's just like really, really hot enough that I was making bad decisions when it came to like, well, I can be safe, but it's 94 degrees with feeling like 105, or I can go inside that nice air-conditioned little old-timey sweet shop. I can be wearing my mask, of course, but nobody else is wearing theirs. So I don't know. It's been a bizarre week. I think since SJ has gotten here, we've been doing a lot of stuff that was really things that are just were for me, and I'm sure for her as well, were just totally off limits. Like we just weren't thinking about doing these kinds of things. Going to a 4th of July fireworks display, eating at restaurants, but outside, of course. But still, like these are novel experiences for me that trigger my anxiety, and Harper's Ferry itself was no exception. I will say, I won't say the name of the bed and breakfast we were at. However, it was very nice. It was a very old, a 19th century farmhouse converted. It appeared like the air units were on a per room basis, so I don't think there was like central air being carted from room to room that we had to worry about it. But so this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying like there's like you have people of very different mindsets in close proximity to each other, because my guess is like the locals of Harper's Ferry, even though it is an inland sort of West Virginia town, they themselves are probably largely left-leaning, and I don't, well, who am I fucking kidding, right? If you're left-leaning, you tend to be more cautious about masks, and if you're right-leaning, you think the government is lying to you and COVID is a bunch of bullshit. I watched really, really, I know I gotta stop watching things that tick me off, but I saw a video that was Ben Shapiro and Russell Brand doing Russell Brand's Under the Skin podcast that he does, which, I'm okay with Russell Brand, really, really much more okay than I'm shocked that I actually kind of like Russell Brand, right? It's kind of come to that. And the name of the video was something like Respectfully Disagreeing. You can watch this video to see what respectful disagreement is like. And Ben Shapiro made this, to me, it was pretty ridiculous, felt ridiculous to me, analogy of what he sees conservatism what he sees as conservatism versus what he sees as liberalism. And he'll quote Thomas Aquinas and do a lot of appeals to archaic authority, which of course cannot be questioned. So, but it was something like, if you're a conservative and you're walking across a field and you see a brick wall, what you're going to do is, you may not know why the wall was built or what its purpose is, but your assumption is going to be that there was a valid purpose for that wall to be put there. And you're going to determine what that purpose is and evaluate that before you decide to break the wall down. Whereas if you're liberal and you're walking through a field and you see a wall, you're going to be like, I don't want this wall here, and break it down, and not realize that it was, say, serving some very important purpose. Such righteous bullshit, right? But anyway, sorry, I was being sidetracked. Point is, so there are largely disparate mindsets over there in Harper's Ferry. And I was kind of looking around the room in the bed and breakfast, and opened the drawer in my nightstand, and this was what was in the drawer. This is an unedited photo of what was in the drawer of the nightstand. The opposing nightstand, likely, Gideon Bible. The nightstand that was on my side of the bed. Now, in case you're wondering what you're looking at here, it is like lube, massage oil, and a vibrator. Now, the lube and the massage oil, I could see that, and I'd be like, oh, wow, they're forward-thinking, they're open about stuff. That's great. It's pretty cool that they would do that. That's neat. I can't imagine a situation, though, where most people, I would think, would not want to use a vibrator in any capacity that's been in a hotel room and, possibly, well, not possibly. Well, I say possibly because I can't imagine somebody using it. Really. So maybe it's never been used. I don't know, but it just seemed to me very odd. And this was it's like a leopard print bag. It seemed very clear to me that this was not something that the previous occupant left behind. This was something that was there by design. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe, sharing vibrators is not, it's not, it could be worse, right? It could be, I don't think that this particular model of vibrator is intended for anything more than surface level stimulation. But who knows, right? Like, people get up to all kinds of things. So to me, this was a little bit quirky, I want to say. I don't, would anyone use a vibrator that they found in a hotel room? I don't know. It makes me shudder a little bit. Okay, let me say hi to everybody real quick here. Flaglo's first. How many raccoons would it take to screw in a light bulb? I'd love to know the answer, if that's a genuine joke. Mediterranean Buccaneer. I just heard my Alexa alert me that a shipment arrived. And I would love to unbox it with you all. It's not a vibrator. Q, hi. Flaglo, hi. Luki Mana, how are you doing? Butterfly Composer. Amy, how are you doing? Carolyn, hi. Carolyn, Amy. I just said Amy. Oh, Nicholas. Nicholas Wyman, y'all. The winner of the Beyond the Double Red Doors writing extravaganza. One of the many contributors of, I believe Nicholas's story was very near 4,000 words. 3,900 and change. I believe Nick, correct me if I'm wrong. Pavi, how are you doing, Pavi? Mafarath. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Good to see you all. Ava, Colorful Dreams. Ava, runner-up for the writing extravaganza. Took me a while to send you, to PayPal you the money. Sorry about that. Voice Quills, how are you doing? Loving the avatar. KJ Bervin, good to see you. Katharina, good to see you. Miz, there it is. Miz, you trust raccoons. Remember, if you see one raccoon, it means there are lots of raccoons. Been rewatching a bit of What We Do in the Shadows, the television version. Of course, Nandor is brilliant. And of course, that show, the four primaries, really Colin Robinson's okay. The three primaries, the casting on them is just phenomenal. And Nandor was pretty much an unknown. He actually was in an episode of Inside Number 9. Nandor the Relentless, in What We Do in the Shadows, played a significant, well, I can't really say what he played without possibly ruining the episode for you all, but played a significant character in the second ever episode of Inside Number 9. And you'd be, I think, hard-pressed to recognize him. But he's a great character. Just the way he's very imposing looking, and given a different sort of demeanor, but he just plays this kind of hapless sort of modern day version of a marauder. It's just he's so empathetic, but also, sort of selfish and but like oblivious, not really self-aware, but he's everything. He's everything. And of course, Matt Berry was my buddy. He was my buddy, wasn't he? Warp Raven, good to see you. LQ, good to see you. LQ, I saw that you joined the Discord yesterday, which I was surprised that it took you that long. Why did it take you so long to join the Discord? If you haven't joined the Discord, join it. Join it. I know Q organizes game days and movie nights and all kinds of things. It's fun. And I mean, look at the chat. Like, imagine the chat extrapolated onto a Discord server, and there you go. Who else do we have here? Crimes in Space. Ayo. Already got you. Got y'all. Oh, Levy. It's good to see you. Oh yeah. Yeah. It is. It is pretty sad. Q. Always calling it. All right. I'm not gonna wallow in the old chat. I'm going to fast forward to, hey Grace, how are you doing? If I see someone new as I'm fast forwarding, JM, yellow. Yeah, it was cool. ASMR Twingles. So you all know, ASMR Twingles was a runner-up winner for the $100 prize, but would like it to be re-rolled. Would like to offer that prize to another winner. So tonight we'll also get yet another winner, the final winner from the extravaganza, which is cool. So you have, come on, click. I'm sorry, I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce your name, so I'm going to just say Victor. You have a driving exam tomorrow. You're probably worried about parallel parking. Guessing that's where the concern is coming from. I don't know where you are, and I don't know like what the rules are as far as taking things over again. Do you have to wait a year or something? Right? I think here, I don't even remember. It's been obviously a very long time since I took my driver's test. But I mean, for me, it was a piece of cake. Really, the parallel parking was the only thing that was kind of a pain. I don't even know if they do that anymore. Do they even care if you can parallel park? Nobody can parallel park very well. Everybody sucks at it. So, okay, let me come down. Stupor Mundi. Stupid World. Hi. I assume this is when I showed what was in the nightstand. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of could work like that. So, yeah, it's one of those Amazon back massagers. One of those the foot hooks. Right? The foot massager hook. Where you can really get the hook in the arches of your feet. It's lovely. It was a very nice B&B, Ava. It was very nice. You know, I saw the owner was that I saw. There were a couple, but I only saw one. Seemed to be, or presented as a young woman, maybe 30s. Hey, Maddie, how are you doing? What did you just walk into? Yes, yeah, I would think this too. Like, it just seems like it's not wise. This is what happens when you leave for 5 minutes. Especially Olevi. Okay, I'm catching up in the chat. I'm doing it. Bring it in, bring it down. I don't think I see anybody new, but if I missed you, I'm sorry. So they do parallel parking. Oh, that's a bloody shame. All right, so I got something delivered just now. All right. I'm going to go grab it because I want to show it to you guys. I don't know, is it going to be that? Oh, my God. Really, and if you haven't seen Matthew McConaughey's Happy Birthday for the 4th of July to America, it's great. You gotta go to his YouTube channel and take a look. It's wonderful. He's fantastic. Anyway, okay, I'll be right back. I gotta go get this thing that I want to show you. All right, be right back. No, that was a mistake. I apologize for that. Fuck. Sorry about that. Y'all got a little bit of Santeria. Unintentional Santeria. I'm really, really sorry about seeing the dead chickens. It's not intentional at all. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. You're going to want to see this, I think. Well, if you didn't see that, people are asking about the chickens. I showed them before, but I'll talk about them when I get back. I promise. Be right back. All right. Sorry about that. So when I have a scene, like I have every scene that I've ever shown, I got Ricky Schroeder lined up.
What's your name? My name is Jason.
And what do you do here?
I'm a supervisor. Friend mandate in
Who are these people?
follow the guidelines. Okay, well this hasn't changed in any building in California.
Yeah, I got him lined up. I still got Sinead O'Connor.
First of all, I want to point
Got
out that
Sinead
it's not just the
O'Connor
grammars that
lined up.
pulled out of the English awards as well, the English equivalent. The reason that I want
Got the snake footage lined up here. Or is that there? Down at the park. So I have lots of, when I create a scene and I put the movie footage in it, I don't usually delete it. It just sticks around there. So I have the Santeria footage that I took when I was living in Miami, and you would drive south in Miami and you would see this kind of shit all over the place. So it was just there, but the thumbnail for it looked like the standby thumbnail. So I just clicked too quickly. Anytime you, thank you for mentioning that.
I was sheriff of this county when I was 25 years old. Hard to believe. Grandfather was a lawman.
Lawman.
Me and him were sheriffs at the same time, him up in
Sheriffs at
Plano
the
and
same
me out
time.
here. I think he's pretty proud of that.
I know what to make of that.
I know I was.
I'm not sure what's going on.
Some of the old-time sheriffs never read more a gun.
So-and-so
A lot of
never had
folks
one.
find that hard to believe.
That's the
Jim
younger
Scarborough never
so-and-so.
carried one. That's the younger Jim. Gaston Borkins wouldn't wear one up in Comanche County.
That scene just like pulls you right in. Anyway, so got a delivery. And it's, oh, look at this. Look at what happened here. That's not great. It's pretty. It's a messed up box. I don't think that there's like very little in here. I actually don't know why this was 2 boxes. But we're about to find out. Watch me slice my hand open. Live streaming. Oh. Y'all are gonna be so proud of me. So proud of me. It is a helmet for my scooter. And it makes ASMR noises. And I gotta say, like, it looks ridiculous. It looks like all these channels and grooves and holes in it. I did this for you all, because I don't want to wear a helmet. It actually took them a while to get it to me. This literally just came as we were on air here. But this is not the thing that I wanted to show you. Actually, this was surprised that was there. What I want to show you is this other box. Which I'll have to do like this. Looks like. A much heavier box. And of course, like all things, Amazon, it's a box within a box. and rather snug, so it's like hard to get out. It's heavy, but the box is kind of around it. This is not the ideal way to be doing this. Oh shit. Careful not to dox myself. Now I'm rolled over the in-ear monitors because I'm not supposed to. Oh geez, this is all caught up in the shit. This is why I don't do this. Excuse me for a moment. I have to go on to the floor. Y'all still there? Okay. Here we go. A company that I really didn't like off the bat, because why spell aperture that way? I'm not sure, but some of y'all probably know what this is because I've been talking about it for a long time. And I've wanted it for a long time. And it was supposed to come out at the beginning of the year. And it just kept I just kept refreshing B&H Photo, which is where I usually get most of my equipment, waiting for it to be ready. And it just a month would go by, another month would go by, and nothing. But now it's here. What is it, you might be asking? Or get to the story reading, you might be saying. It is... Oh, screw you. Seriously? Trying to look at chat, see what's going on as I'm doing this. Come on, give me, do better than that. Be best aperture. Aperture. What is up with Felicia Rashad calling Cosby's release overturning a grave injustice? I don't know what to say about that. All right. So for those of you who don't know, Aperture is a lighting and sort of prosumer level lighting and accessories. And the thing that I have always been missing and I've always wanted, or for a long time, is this thing. Oh, look at this thing. Jesus. It's flipping huge, actually. And heavy. Christ. This beast right here. So what is it? It says, Spotlight Mini Zoom. You can see it has a lens on it. More than one, actually. It has a focusing ring for it. It has clips for putting modifiers in front of it. It has these little sliders that control... Can't really see it unless I do this, I guess. Let's do this. It's not really much better. Kind of control the opening there. Almost like an iris, except, much smaller. But what this is an ellipsoidal light attachment, which is, what you would see in the cinema, in plays, the theater. If you watched Bo Burnham's Inside, he used something lots. Why was I waiting for this one? Because clearly, there are many of them out on the market. Could literally use this thing to work out. It's got to weigh 15 pounds, some more than that. So why was I waiting for this one? Because I was waiting for it because it zooms. So most of these will cast a circle of light and will have a lens on the end here. And it will just be fixed. It will be like at 4 meters, you're going to get a 1 foot in diameter circle of light. But with the zoom on this, you can zoom between 15 and 30 degree angles. So you can effectively double the size, which is really important, because I'm working in confined spaces. And look, it comes with a drop-in iris. I'm so excited by this. Should I end the stream and go play with this? Look at that. Ooh, that's a nice noise, actually. Is that a nice noise? So smooth. So, comes with the iris, and then the exciting part for me, apart from the fact that it's a zoom, which means I can change the size of it, control the angle of it, with these blades. But on top of that, let me just put it down now. You can combine all of that with what are called gobos. And it came with, it seems like it came with maybe 20 or 30 of these. So these are gobos, right? So this is like a brick wall pattern. It's hard to see because it's not fire. So all of that, clouds. So all of those dramatic lighting effects that you see. This tree one looks very nice. I'm liking it. Require two things. They require the light to be parallel, the light rays to be moving in parallel, focused, at the point where they hit the gobo. Which is why you can't just put this, you can't just do something like this. Let's do this better. You can't just take a light and then put a gobo in front of it and then have it cast that shadow, although there's other reasons why this one isn't. It's not going to cast that shadow because the light ray, it wasn't designed for the light rays to be parallel at the point where it's hitting this thing. Hello. Now there is probably a point. At that point it's way too close to me. Where it does come into focus, somewhere around there. But if you have a lens that's properly focusing this light, then you can have it be much closer. And then you can bring the iris in. And the cool thing about that is the iris is at a different point in the process there. So the light is not focused at the point where the iris is, unless you want it to be. But you focus it on the gobo, so the iris leaves are defocused. So then you get this kind of soft fall off of light in the gobo pattern. So it doesn't even have to look like a circle. It can look like, whatever you want. So you can have all kinds of, I'm going to show you all. Trust me. is worth it. Like, look up Aperture Mini Zoom if you want to see some examples of the kinds of things it can do. Ooh, shit. I just did hurt myself. Anyway, I'm looking for things that will reinvigorate, spark my imagination to do things in ASMR again, because I've been creatively bereft for some time, and it's easy to rely on gear and say, well, once I get this thing, everything's going to be perfect, and I'm going to enjoy doing all of this again. But I really think that is the thing. That is the final thing. The only thing about it that's not good, and it just means that I need to spend more freaking money, is originally I bought an Aperture light that was compatible with the Mini Zoom, because 4 months ago I thought the Mini Zoom was going to be coming out any day. Send this to me, from me to me. AirDrop, you're a wonderful thing. So right now, yeah, so that's me. I just took a picture of the light that is lighting me right there. And that is the light that goes into the Mini Zoom. So I need another one. I obviously can't use the one that I'm using as my main key light. And were I to turn that off, now I'm at the point where like everybody's like, all right, we get it already. Yeah, so this is with the key light off. Whoa. You did not go to your proper saved setting. And so, of course, the final thing is if all your lights are Aperture lights, which most of my lights now for live streaming are Aperture lights, they have a great app that combines them all, and you can essentially have, like I have here, you have all your lights on one app. You can set them all the way you want. Like I have every light that's pretty much lighting me right now is here. What's this one? That's that little highlight in the back there. And then you can set them different ways, and then you can, that's the other side. You can save them. You can have different sets of presets. So you could have your moody setting. You could have your, whatever it is, and you could just change them on the fly. And I wanted to kind of do that in the future too. Have like, maybe later in the stream when we're doing readings or more sort of winding down kind of thing, have a lighting setup for that and be able to go to that lighting setting with nothing more than the tap of my phone screen. So that's the super exciting thing to me that I wanted to share with you all. And, those of you who are patrons, which I know is like a lot of you, right? Even if you're not monthly patrons, a lot of you have like given y'all are the ones that are funding this continued exploration, and I'm super grateful for it, and I appreciate it. So let's move on. We need to roll one more time to pick one more winner. This would be another $100 winner because ASMR Twingles would like to sort of re-roll her prize. And I said that was fine. So let's do it. I actually sort of prepared for this. So where is the, okay, well, I did sort of prepare for it. Let's see what we got. All right. Y'all remember this list. So Twingles would like her, their prize money to be rolled for again. So we're going to do it right now. Now, I don't think I'm going to do where I refocus the camera. It's just going to take too long. But then y'all are going to have to trust me, which I don't know if do you trust me? I don't know. I could just kind of like shake my hand and then show a number, but it's hard to show a number. It's hard to know which one it's on. But anyway, so for $100, maybe this camera would be better for that. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to put my finger over one number and then reveal that number. So like that's a practice, but that would have been 10. Does that seem good enough for everybody? So I'm just rolling it in my hands here and then putting my finger over one number. So this is the winner of Twingles' $100 American. Is, unless they already won, in which case we got to do it again. Is, oh my God, it's 10 again. But that's fine. It's Ms. Ms, you won. Ms, you just won $100. Let's fix that. Both fix the name and $100. Ms, you won $100. What do you think about that? Do you have a PayPal account, Ms? Hopefully you do. That was actually a pretty easy way to do it. I mean, that would be hard to fake. I guess I could have very sensitive fingers and like feel the number. But if I could do that, wow, that'd be a neat trick. I can't do that. Yeah, I was writing very fast and I wrote mix instead of Ms. So I got some people emailing saying they'd like to read a story. And I'd love to get someone on to read a story. I think we're only going to be able to do 2 stories. As I mentioned, they're long. And I'm going to just kind of randomly pick who of the people who said they would read stories. We'll go through. I'll randomly pick one. And they may not be here this evening. But if they are, then I will randomly give them a story to read. Now you have to have, so the thing is to read a story, okay, I'm assuming the people who wrote in know this, but to read a story you have to have access to Google Docs and you have to have a camera because, you're going to call in and I'm going to cede the whole screen to you. It's not going to be you and me side by side. It's going to be you reading the story that you've never read before and you don't know what it's about. You don't have time to like pre-read it and get into it. It's just going to be a cold read. So you might want to, people who wrote in and were like, yeah, I want to do this. Now that it's go time, maybe you don't want to do it. That's fine. Writing with ink. I've not seen you for, well, actually it's only been like a week now. The novelty's worn off. Writing with ink. Yeah, already back to, who'd be down? Oh, so yeah, I would think Voice Quills, you'd be great for this. So I will add your name to the list of people, which is, it's not a big list, but there are some people who said they'd be comfortable reading someone's story. And we'll do that right now. So I'm going to pick a person, and then that person will be able to say, well, 1, am I here? 2, do I want to do this? And do I fulfill the criteria, which is you have access to Google Docs and you can be on a webcam reading live. So let's see, the people that asked. 1, there's Lisa Shobana. Voice Quills. Let's do this. I'm just going to write them all down. Lisa Shabana. Voice Quills. Who else said they would do it here? Samantha Q. Catherine Eisenhuber. Carolyn. Anybody else into that? Samantha Q is not here. Okay. All right. Anybody else down for this? All right. So then we have Samantha's out of it. Is Lisa Shabana here tonight? I don't think I saw her. Lisa, are you here this evening and down to read? On the camera. Katharina is still here. Yeah. Katharina, because she went to bed. Okay, so it's down to, I don't think Lisa Shabana's here either. Which brings it down to Voice Quills, Carolyn, and Katarina. So I don't have a 3-sided die. I have a 4-sided die. So, and this is not going to work for this because of the way 4-sided dies. Well, yeah, it will. Well, no, it won't. So, okay, so I'm going to do a 4-sided die roll the same way as before. So, right, for those of you who don't know how 4-sided dies work, the number at the top is the number. So I'm just going to go, this is a practice. I'm going to go like this. And then just show it. And that will be the number. And we have number 1 is Voice Quills. Number 2 is Katarina. Number 3 is Carolyn. Okay. Ready? Here we go. Damn it. Of course. Shit. Oh, good Lord. And that thing would hurt a barefoot. I can tell you that. So 4, obviously there was not a number 4. Voice Quills. Voice Quills, you're down to read? Voice Quills is down to read. I think. Voice Quills, that means you gotta email me. So actually I can just send you, if your email has not changed, I will just send you the link directly right now. And we'll get into this. I'm not worried about, I used to be worried about like dead air. Not going to be worried about dead air. Not happening. right, so messaging Voice Quills right now. I know this is putting you on the spot. Voice Quills, and then I'm going to randomly pick a story as well. But rather than, I'm literally just going to randomly pick one. Close my eyes. Move my mouse around. And click. Oops, that didn't work. That didn't work. That was dangerous, actually. Okay, and let me just be sure. Good crikey. It's a longin'. I think we should start it, and let's see. We get a little ways through it, and make sure it's not going to take too long. So this is one of the almost 4,000 worders. It is called The Monster Hunter's Student, and I believe it is written by Butterfly Composer or PG? Butterfly Composer, I think. So, Voice Quills, I'm now sending you the link to the story. Oh. Let me know if you get it and have access to it. I'll just go ahead and bring you on.
Hello.
How is it going, Voice Quills? Should I be calling you Voice Quills? That's
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm curious if if you're gonna be able to access this doc. Something has to go wrong.
Yes, no, I can see it.
You can see it?
It's all here, yep.
Are you ready to go? I think so. It is almost 4,000 words. So why don't I'm going to time it here. I'm not suggesting you should read too quickly. But I think, like 15 minutes or something, if we're not, if it looks like it's going to be like 45 minutes to read, that's probably too long to do, right?
Yeah.
But let's give it a shot, and I'll just be listening and timing, and I'm going to cede the floor to you. Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, it should be fine. Apparently my audio is only coming in one ear.
I am hearing it in both. Let me see.
This might...
Oh, yes. Yeah, I see it coming in one ear. Yes.
Okay, is that fix it now? Is it coming in both?
No, it is coming in one ear. Why? Huh. Oh, and Butterfly Composer is ditching. Let me see if there's something I can do. Actually, I don't know if there is anything I can do. That's never happened before with us, I don't think.
Yeah, because
Oh, there it's both. It's both. You did something.
Both now?
Yeah.
Okay. All I did was I had it on my raw mic, and then I put it through like a noise filter thing, and I swapped it back to just the raw mic again.
Okay, I believe it is in both ears now. Can somebody confirm in chat if it is in both ears? Warp Raven is saying I only got him left, but I think that was before. Could you say hi once more, Voice Quills? Or...
Hello, is it in both ears or the one?
I am seeing it in both ears.
Okay, yeah, Katie says it's both now.
Okay, I'm going to turn the floor over to you, Voice Quills. Are you ready to go?
I am ready. I will do my best.
Okay, here goes. Voice Quills is going to be reading. Whoops, I lost my. What's it called? Voice Quills. It's a mess. The Monster Hunter Student. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and take it away.
All right. So, eradicating monstrosity, or the Monster Hunter Student. Dear God, another one. Okay, before you start talking, let me ask you something. What on earth is going on out there? What sort of calamity is befalling civilization such that coming here seemed like a good idea? I don't mean to sound too insulting. We've all walked that path too, obviously. But no one comes to Mirage lightly. And look, you made it. You found the city of dreams. Well done. There's magic everywhere, and there's plenty of space. Everyone's pretty nice, despite being pretty mad too. My point is, why is it that you and so many others recently seem to be showing up here and asking me for a job? Do you want a job? I assume, yeah, thought so. Okay then. Look, I'll live with you. You're probably gonna die. Immediately. Yeah, funny, isn't it? But really, think about it. How many monster hunters do you know about who weren't either dead or really old part-timers who just fell into this business? Exactly. God, that's a loud noise. Exactly. No one who intentionally seeks monsters out wins. It defies on one of the most basic laws of narrative. And as you know, the laws of narrative beat physics 9 times out of 10. Listen, kid, the only way you're coming out of this still breathing is by being a child of destiny. No one else trains to be a hunter. It's just part of their backstory. Do you have a prophecy hanging over your head? Secretive but rather obvious parents and or guardians? Royal bloodline? Magic bloodline? Do you have blood? Wait, you are human, right? Not a half-breed cross anything interesting? Adopted by elves? Touched by fairies? Or are you a monster yourself? Looking for some dramatic and dubious therapeutic bloodletting and revenge for a horrible thing happened to you? None of those? Shit. Well then, no offense, but one of us is clearly gonna die in this would-be relationship of ours, and I'm starting to think it might be me. So if you don't mind leaving... hang on. Okay, so you were told to come here. Now things are starting to make sense. Must be pretty annoyed at that guy by now though, right? What a horrible thing to do on your deathbed. Send some random kid off into the wild. Gave you a letter to give to me, I take it? Alright then, let's take a look. Hopefully there's payment in it rather than recalling a favor. Huh. Money. That's nice. Oh, thank God. I'm just meant to give you your quest. Christ, I thought I was going to have to mentor you for a moment. My life was flashing before my eyes. No, you don't want to know. Lots of nasty death in there. Not enough, I don't know, kittens? Yeah, they're safe enough. Not enough cuddly kittens. So, kid, here's the deal. I give you some gear and some general info. You go out and, well, assuming you don't die immediately, which, as already mentioned, is highly likely, you go hunt and kill a monster. Drag the corpse back here, however you want to do it, then I send you out again and again until some arbitrary limit is reached. Sound good? It does. Okay. So, monsters. Do you know much about them? It is, of course, something of a great philosophical question as to what makes a monster. They aren't people, and they aren't, strictly speaking, creatures. People and creatures can be monsters, naturally, but there's something separating them off from the rest of us, something that makes our skin crawl. What is a person and what is a creature is even worse. Are magical animals who are capable of intelligence and some degree of self-awareness, are they people? If so, we really shouldn't be using them as beasts of burden and as messengers. Of course, it's subjective. It's all subjective. To be monstrous is an act. I'm sure we all know things we think are monstrous. Torturing someone to death, eating someone alive, that sort of thing. Is murder itself monstrous? If so, we have a bit of a problem, because monster hunters generally don't have much in the way of conflict resolution beyond killing stuff. Except when we fall in love with targets. I don't recommend that, by the way, as ridiculous as it sounds. Rule 1 of monster hunting. One man's monster is another man's uh, sexual obsession. But let's not get too deep into that. I just hope you aren't one for vampires, because, well, no better place to start, I guess. Vampires. Not very common. Well, no monster is very common. Otherwise, it'd all be in serious trouble, but I digress. Vampires are an interesting bunch. Very varied, very odd. There's actually some debate as to whether we should lump all these different beings into the same group, but there are good reasons for it. Yes, debate again. Sorry, kid. If you're looking for moral certainty, then you should have become a banker or something. Then at least you know what you're doing is wicked. Vampires, again, usually come about through some form of vampiric curse. This tends to be somewhat magical in nature and comes either from some form of outside punishment or from another vampire. Most vampires fall into the latter category, just as most tend to be at least vaguely humanoid and drink or otherwise consume the blood of others. Now, zombies. The oldest and really still most common form of vampirism is the rather humble zombie. These are corpses animated by a singular and unthinking compulsion to tear apart people, which obviously we don't approve of, and feast upon their flesh, particularly their blood. Generally, the need is not merely psychological. They genuinely do need the physical remains of living bodies to continue on existing. The magic or curse or whatever else that's holding them upright is rather weak and sustained by constant feasting on flesh. Accordingly, though unpleasant, they are pretty weak and uninteresting. You're probably not going to meet your end in the jaws of one of these things, unless you're unfortunate enough to fall into a bed of them, or charge headlong into a group. More advanced forms of zombie can pass on their curse through contact, as I'm sure many movies have made abundantly clear. Of course, this doesn't usually matter because if you're actually being touched by a zombie, you're probably about to be torn apart. Very occasionally, because again, these things are incapable of much thought beyond brains, a sizable horde will somehow manage to develop, and then we all have an exhausting weekend standing on top of a roof. Zombies are pretty simple to deal with no higher or any thought other than murder. Any and all trap should work against them, particularly if you have a lovable but useless friend to act as live bait. The ethics of this method are dubious, but case law will be on your side if it comes down to it. The only dangerous individual zombie is a purpose-made golem of sorts, where some sadistic bastard of a wizard has glued some bodies together and set them loose. At that point, you have a very tough, remote-controlled, magical body with plague-making abilities backed up by a magician. I strongly advise running away or switching sides in that circumstance. Lucid vampires. These would be the so-called civilized vampires, and thus not necessarily monsters for our purposes, as in you may be having them as clients rather than targets. Again, this is a rather large group of various beings, and types being collated for convenience, but the most common example would be when a living or recently deceased human is consumed by a sophisticated curse, probably from another lucid vampire. They retain their mental faculties, memories, and morals, if they had them. Physiologically, however, you must make no mistake. These beings are no longer human. They run on life force now, and usually need constant refilling of their bodies will die again, far more dramatically this time. Blood is the easiest and often only source for their needs. However, most new vamps, or rather the most powerful and evolved, cursed, can make do with chargeable amulets, donate blood, etc., etc. This is why vampires in general have been trending rather more towards people rather than monsters for some time now, beyond the obvious sex appeal. Much easier to get on with someone when they don't have to eat you to live. It's still a curse though, and thus comes the catch. You may have your mind as a lucid vampire, but you will also have the hunger of a zombie. They want blood, whether they need it or not, and it burns and tortures them even when they do touch it. The supposed perks of vampirism, invincibility and immortality, are rather tools to keep the being suffering for as long as possible. For a variety of reasons, there are not many lucid vampires around. The only ones who even want to stay alive are either monsters, so we kill them, or specifically inclined to inner reflection and solitude, or rather less charitably, are gluttons for punishment with a side of sadomasochism. Those that do survive are exceptionally, one could say exquisitely, dangerous. Outside of all their natural abilities, they also find it easy to pick up and wield death magic. They can usually make an army of zombies or other vamps if they want, or even, as their own curse is a form of death magic, improve their own curse. The sick freak who made the first screeches was killed for this very reason. Speaking of screeches, I suppose it was only a matter of time, given all we've already discussed, for one lucid vampire to be curious and stupid enough to try crossing their curse with zombies. They, as you might imagine, succeeded in turning a mild annoyance of a monster into a horrifying abomination. Unlike zombies, screeches are fast, strong, and lethal from a distance as well as up close. Unlike lucid vampires, their intelligence is replaced by an intense, predatory cunning, a heightened bloodlust, and an unending desire to kill everything, everywhere. There are decapitated and mounted heads of screeches still desperately trying to kill anyone who gets too close. Quite why the library keeps them in the children's section, I never know. They breed in large numbers, emerging from cocoons and devouring unborn screeches around them. They fight and kill each other over and over till that special one in a million is born, with a spark of controllable magic within them. Then they universally converge on the new leader and rampage across the planet. The name comes from the only warning they'll give you before they attack. The noise has been adapted to cause the most pain to human ears, and can cause deafness after prolonged exposure. Not that most live that long. I suppose the only plus side of this is that most screeches are deaf long before their first birthday. They're capable of killing just about anything, and will try to kill just about anything they detect. We have fun here at Monster Hunters, but if you see one of these things, tell everyone you know. Genocide is the only effective means of controlling these monsters, and the one time we did have a full-scale army in our hands, the freaks created the desert around this city. Do not engage alone. So, still feel like being a vampire? Yeah, they're not all that bad. But even the sanest of the lucid vamps are pretty messed up. One of them even became a monster hunter for a while, as a distraction from the blood cravings. Didn't really work out too well, obviously. But it was sure interesting to watch. I suppose the next most common monster type would be shifts or shifters. Here we really start to fall into the debate around what is and what isn't a monster. Vampires of all types are pretty easy to typecast. They want to eat people. They need to eat people, and they usually rather enjoy doing it. Most of them also can't really think or feel much, which really age our consciences when we kill them. There are no such easy answers with shifters. Often the best thing to think there is, well, at least we're putting them out of their misery. Shifters, often mistaken for werewolves, and to be fair, that's not so bad an assumption. Most shifters are, but properly speaking, a shifter is anybody who has the power or curse to change from person to creature. See, this is where the debate around what a person even is comes up in full force. Does that just mean people? What about other sapient and sentient races? What about magical animals that can transform into other animals? What measure is a man and all that? Fortunately, we don't have to think too much about it, and I heartily recommend you do not. And to be honest, that goes for the job in general, given that our profession is hired murderer, whichever way you look at it. Killing people for money is hopefully not something you were looking forward to doing when you were at school. But I digress. Technically, any magic wielder can become a shifter, either at will, through some enchanted item, or potion, or a curse of some kind. That's what makes these monsters, of all of them. That's tragic. Werewolves. For some reason, these are the most common shifters, both cursed and natural. I have no idea what the wolf or humanity has done to earn this strange mixing. It's yet another question for our mysterious philosopher friends to settle while we actually do things. Most werewolves are perfectly safe, or at least friendly enough, people to people most of the time. Most got the trait through family lineage and have control over when and where they transform. They tend to be in the larger side as humans, larger than screeches even, and fairly hairy. They possess great strength and vitality, even more so when in beast form. Most, I must stress the most, tend to keep to themselves in large family groups in woodlands and forests, tend to be hunters, woodcutters, and generally pretty handy at their craft. Of course, there are the other kind. The cursed, either by bite, object, or magical curse. These beings are very unfortunate. Without sufficient protections, they transform by the phases of the moon and use up their own life force to do it. Werewolves of this type don't tend to last very long, and very few wishes to endure that life. Most go mad with pain and bloodlust. Their human mind contends as transforming into a beast, the mentality of a lesser vampire. They tend to be more dangerous than vampires on the whole, and to me this makes them even more pitiable. They can also be cured, though this is astoundingly difficult, made harder by the fact that every day they carry the curse, the more their life is burnt up maintaining it. There are other shifters, of course, but the only monstrous ones you're likely to come across are people stupid enough to transform into much simpler creatures than humans. The ones that spring to mind most are the snake people. For some reason, it often goes badly wrong. Certain islands to this day are inhabited by large and intelligent magical snakes. Others are partially transformed, becoming cold-blooded in every respect. Smaller, poisonous, and venomous. If you happen to find a lucid one, they'll probably be extremely good at making poisons, potions, healing in general, which may well be of use. Getting close enough to figure out if they're friendly is a bit of a challenge, though, I do admit. Anyway, that's probably enough information for now. Going over other things such as trolls and dragons would be quite overkill for a new recruit, especially as I'm uncertain whether you'll survive your first trip. Then again, you did make it here relatively unscathed. I say relatively because I presume the scorch marks and scratch marks weren't fashion choices. Indeed. Never can tell with the youths these days. Well, I suppose you'll be wanting your target, and then your kit. Believe it or not, my elusive vampire friend has been a bit social lately, and fallen rather heavily off the wagon, so to speak. Basically, that means you need to go kill or restrain him, whilst you go clean up the mess. He usually only creates zombies, process by which he specifically can create other lucid vamps is pretty intense and really not for young ears. So, this should be nice and simple, if tedious. You have to go out and follow the blood and entrails back to wherever those zombies have wandered off to. Pardon me. Even if he did make some. And end them. Oh, and whilst you're tracking them, thumb your way through the Monster Hunter's Guide, as annotated by me. It'll do you good in the long run. If you can indeed run after tomorrow. Let me see. Yes, gear. Well, your standard kit includes a distinctive item of clothing to cast a recognizable silhouette. Trust me, it's more useful than it sounds. We'll want some twitchy villagers shooting you in the dim light before dawn. It's not fun at all. Also, take some vague and fairly useless armor-looking pieces that you may or may not wear. Don't worry too much about it. Flaming torches, unlit, obviously. A bag for swag and monster corpses stuff into. No, it does not make the monster lighter or less cumbersome. No, that is not unfair. As for weapons, we have the usual suspects. Snakes, which are incredibly crap at everything except killing a sleeping vampire. Just do not bother with those, unless you're trying to die. We also have crossbows, which are much like guns, only less effective. Revolvers, which are very much like modern guns, but cooler. And various swords, which might be useful or might get you horribly murdered. Much like the rest of this kit, really. Look, no one really kills monsters with weapons. There isn't much fighting. It's really through traps and trickery, and with luck, plot armor, and bullshit Deus Ex Machina. Magic too, I suppose, when it doesn't fall into one of the other three camps, which it usually does. Am I forgetting anything? Oh, yes, people are probably gonna look at you funny. They'll look at you sadly from a distance, make various religious signs, or try to dissuade you from throwing your life away. Do not listen to these people. They're all bitter and washed-up losers trying to stop you from getting your glory. No, not really. But for some reason, that's what every monster hunter thinks when they actually meet one. Seriously, I have no idea why we do that. But a tradition you kind of have to go along with. Not that you have much choice. I suppose all that's left to say is to state the blindingly obvious. If a monster comes up to you and says that it's a friendly monster, it is not a friendly monster. Actually, if anyone comes up to you and acts friendly, they probably want to eat you. No one wants to be your friend. You're a monster hunter. Likewise, if someone wants to sleep with you, don't. Virginity or celibacy, if you can't manage that, is ridiculously overpowered and will save you from at least one certain death if you keep it up. Take out your frustrating on the monsters. But not like that. Also, never sleep with any monsters. That never helps. Always stay on the path, unless someone tells you to stay on it. Never ever listen to anyone you come across, except when you obviously shouldn't or should. In fact, here, read these fairy tales before heading out tomorrow. That should help a bunch. Never look at old women the same way again. But you might live long enough for it to be awkward. Alright, good. That's the best I can do. I'm sure we won't be meeting again after we part ways, either because you've been murdered, or I have been. If so, and you find my body, it wasn't a suicide or an accident, and whoever suggests that is either a liar or a moron. Do not listen or sleep with them. It's an occupational hazard of this sort of work to die dramatically. You haven't died unceremoniously for the purpose of somebody else's story. No idea why blacksmiths and farm boys get all the luck, but that's just how it is. Good luck. Or, rather, I suppose be careful would be better, given I'm not sure whether I actually want you to succeed or not. I would try and sabotage or otherwise waylay or kill you, but it would rather be pointless, because it would only guarantee my demise. Besides, I only kill monsters. Not that we ever figured out what that means. We best be off before I figure that out. That is, if you're certain this is the life you want to lead. I wasn't joking. Well, not too much. Throughout this procedure, it's a hard and rotten life. There's very little to recommend to the hunting of monsters, much like the hunting of people or creatures. It wears you down. Oftentimes, we find that former hunters make the worst monsters of all. All right, if you're sure, let me offer a few words of encouragement instead. The world needs people like us, much as we all wish it didn't. Maybe we can't define or really know what makes a monster. We all know they are out there. And if we can save one life, our sacrifice might just be worth it. Or maybe that's not a lie I tell myself when I'm trying to sleep at night. Good luck, kid. You're gonna need it.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
That both the material and the fact that you cold read it like that. I mean, I realize that it is your job, right, or one of your jobs, right?
Yeah.
But still, like, I don't know how you did that. That was fantastic. And Butterfly Composer, I thought that was great. I really liked the sort of tongue-in-cheek humor and the I like the unorthodox kind of coming at it. Sort of reminds me of those old, it reminds me of like Elder Scrolls, some of the Elder Scrolls books that they would write like from the point of view of, or even back in the Bard's Tale days, like where they would just have a manual that was written by the one person who escaped or whatever. I thought that was lovely. Thank you so much, Voice Quills.
Yeah.
And that what was that, maybe 30 minutes? Maybe not even. No,
Something like that?
Maybe 20, 25 minutes, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhere on there.
Is that, were you running out of like, just from the sheer number of words, were you running out of like steam at the end there? Have you done, I know you've done a lot of voice work, but I don't know if you've done like reading long passages of text, right?
I did do, I can't remember the name of it now. I did for a podcast, it was 2 chapters of a book I read, and I can't remember the name of it now. But I've done like that kind of thing before. I don't think as many words as that, maybe even around the same. I think because I wasn't focusing on doing like the perfect take. I was just sort of going with the flow. It wasn't as like exhausting as doing like a full like recording. So
and I tried to throw you off.
You caught me a couple of times. The first noise, like the harp, was like, what was that? And then the horde, the clown horde, they like flared in my brain for a second. It's like, I just gotta keep going.
For a moment, I was like, well, should I do serious Foleying? And then I was like, well, no, I don't have the stuff here to do serious Foleying. The only thing I have is this box, which, makes some noises. You could do like gravel and stuff, but I didn't have enough to do serious Foleying, so I was like, no, I'll just mess with stuff and see what happens. But that was great. It didn't seem like you missed a trick. That was really good. Thank you for doing that, Voice Quills. And that was like you just walked in here, right? Like you didn't even. This was not. You didn't email me, right? Like you just walked in. And that was great.
I think I meant to last week and I forgot about it. So it's a good thing I turned up this week.
You have a channel, right? You do have a channel. I've seen it.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I've got a YouTube channel. Same name.
Voice Quills?
Yes, right. Voice Quills.
Okay. Can I ask, is Lady Nerd, is your previous name gone? Is that? Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, pretty much scrubbed it, so it's all Voice Quills now.
And is that I'm assuming maybe that was just to kind of not associate yourself with one particular IP. Is that?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Okay. So like there's also like the like the Lady Nervar, who like helps run like the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages and Imperial Library and all that, who's like married to Michael Kirkbride. So there was a small amount of there was a very small amount of confusion with people, and like she didn't mind it at all. But I kind of thought, well, if I'm gonna go into voice acting full time, it's probably not the best idea to come at it with a name that's associated with an existing IP.
Yeah.
So best to change it to something sort
So
of unique.
many, it seems like so many people, I mentioned this before, but it's interesting to see like when people or bands or whatever it is, like it's obvious they chose their, I'm not saying Lady Nervar was like this, but there are cases where it's like they obviously chose their name not thinking they were going to be successful or not quite yet knowing exactly what they wanted to do, but then they got kind of burdened with this moniker that they gave themselves, right?
Yeah.
I think I called out Death Angel as a band that chose their name before I think they realized they weren't going to be super heavy thrash forever. But also, like even it just seems like that happens a lot. You know, you want to maybe you can tell me about this because when I listen to audiobooks through Audible, which I'm not affiliated with in any way, but whatever, I do use Audible. A lot of times I will listen, I'll almost put as much importance on the reader as the writer. And if I will search for readers' names because I also seem to find that like that's almost like a tacit recommendation. Maybe I shouldn't look at it that way because a paycheck's a paycheck, right? And people might be reading books that they don't care for, but you know they're doing it because they need to get paid. But there's one person I loved this person's voice, and I was searching, and I knew that this person had done some other books that I had read or listened to, but when I searched for their name, it wasn't coming up. And then I went to Wikipedia, and then this person has 3 different names that they record under. And I didn't know if that was like a thing with voiceover people to try and get more work or to like associate their work with certain genres or something like that, different names.
I don't know. I think the only time I've heard it happen was like someone on Twitter talking about how like someone had auditioned and got the part for like a main thing in like an animation or a game, can't remember what it was, and then they'd sent in a second audition for another main character under a different name,
too.
but it was the same person.
Yeah.
And they're like, don't do that. That's just not good. Don't
I hope
like,
that's not
just,
what this person's doing. That would be
like, I think as long as they're not applying for the same thing under 3 different names, it's
Right.
fine. I guess it could be like, I guess it does make sense because people do tend to be pigeonholed a bit because you end up having that voice that everyone wants.
right, exactly, for that particular thing too.
Yeah. Because like there's Matt Mercer with the McCree voice. There's Liam O'Brien with the Illidan voice. Steve Bloom just being Steve Bloom. Like that's the voice, and we hire them for that. So maybe having a different name allows you to sort of spread your wings a bit and get a bit more variety.
And not be prejudged by, oh, it's this person.
Yeah.
I don't see this person in this role, but you're not giving them a chance because you're just sort of, you know, yeah. But and it seemed to be like, because this was horror, and I was like, well, maybe this person like has a horror nom de plume, and then, you know, nonfiction nom de plume, because maybe, you know, they consider certain genres not serious, and if they're putting, I don't know what it was, but this person's done tons of books, but under 3 different names. So I thought that was interesting. How have you been? I haven't talked to you in a little while.
Yeah, been doing good. It's been just a lot of I've been in voice acting classes and then just working away as normal. My YouTube channel has kind of exploded a bit since I was last here. I think I was on like 300 subs or something last time, and now I'm over 4,000.
Wow, that actually is a really that's a very significant change. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I think it was mainly driven by one video, and it was just like Crimkit, and I got sent it by someone in like my Discord.
Oh yeah, you
so I
got
did
600,000 views on that.
Yeah, it's that's what's crazy. The rest of them are like a couple of hundred, maybe a few thousand, and then this one it was like coasting along, And then one day I just looked, and then it just went like skyrocketed way off the charts. I was like, what is this?
I closed it before looking. How old was that video?
It's like a month and 2 days old or
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
So I think it was about 2 weeks in, and then the views just went way up, and it was being like recommended all over the place apparently. So
It's amazing. That's amazing. Like seeing that happen, because it doesn't have. If it's crap, it's not going to happen, right? Like people have to be. Something about it is appealing to people, but it has to intersect with the algorithm being like, okay, well, either it got noticed somewhere or got called out somewhere. Maybe you don't even know where that happens. Like sometimes I'll be watching my analytics and there'll be videos that if I see a spike in views, like on a day, I'm like, oh, well, maybe somebody called it out. And then I almost feel like I got to find out, because if somebody is doing that, I want to say thank you, right? Like it's sort of
like I've done that for videos. I've looked through at the analytics, and it'll be like mostly just YouTube recommending it, homepage, next video, and then it'll be like Discord, like, okay, I post in Discord, so that's fine. And then like Facebook, Snapchat, WhatsApp, like who is sharing it these places? I need to know.
Oh, that's great though. I'm so has it plateaued, or are you still going up? Because
it's kind of plateaued. Like I was kind of writing it for a bit where my videos are getting, a couple thousand views or 1,000 views, and then lately it's kind of fallen to only a couple hundred, but it's done that before where there's kind of peaks and troughs with uploading. And it does seem to be somewhat random, because whenever I've had a video like pop off a bit and like get a few thousand, I'm like, right, this is something that people like, I'll do something similar. And then I do a video similar to that the next day, and it gets like nowhere near the views. It's like, well, what is it you want? Because the one thing I think people keep coming back for is like my Morrowind Dunmer impression, and I'll do a video with that, and then it barely gets anything. And then I'll do like some random off the cuff thing, and it just takes off.
People are capricious. It is difficult. I used to think that I had like, well, if I do X, Y, or Z, I'm guaranteed like a certain number of views, and that was the case, and I guess it is still a little more the case, relatively speaking. But I definitely don't get like the views now that I got 2 or 3 years ago, and it's kind of fascinating to see that stuff happen. And then I'll do something like Joker, and it'll get a whole shit ton of views.
Yeah.
But that's riding the wave of pop culture, right? Like, it's not really indicative of much more than that. For me, I'm not suggesting that's the case for you, right? So, well, thank you so much for doing that. I'm sure everyone here has already checked out your channel, but if they haven't, please check out Voice Quills' channel. That was obviously awesome. And I love the story too, Butterfly Composer. That actually does seem like it'd be a great fit for an ASMR reading. I gotta ponder it. But it was really good talking to you, and I hope that you have a good remainder of your. It's late there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like 2:20 in the morning.
Yeah.
So
whatever. I'll let you go. I appreciate you doing this so late at night. That was great.
No worries. Right. Thank you very much. It's been
great.
Take
care.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was fantastic. Let's see. Now, if we wanted to do one more, is anybody up for doing one more? Is anybody up for doing one more? I don't want to force anybody. I could pick a shorter one, so make sure it's not a 4,000 worder. But I'm not sure, Carolyn and Katerina, you might not be. It might be too late at this point. So if there's anybody else who would like to do that, as I shuffle my gobos, let's see what we got here. If not, I'm going to read one. I like that one. It's a good one. Could be either lightning or a dead tree. Could go either way. Katerina, Carolyn are up for it. Isra, are you saying you are up to reading it? Writing with Ink doesn't want one more, but too bad. Grace's is shorter. Well, I do want to pick things randomly. So, but I do think that because I had certain people who asked to do this earlier, I want to stick with that. So, with the utmost respect, I think I'm going to say, let's get it down to between Carolyn and Katerina. And basically what I'll do is evens and odds. How's that? Evens and odds. So Carolyn's even, and Katerina is odd. And remember that whatever is pointing up at the end is Isra. I would love for you to do it, and we're gonna have more stories and be able to do this on another night. But just because certain people had mailed in, a week ago, it feels a little weird to me. Well, I guess it feels a little weird to me to like pick people randomly who are saying now they want to read. But we'll put you on the list. So, but Katerina is evens and Carolyn is odds. So remember, just so that we're clear, and this is not the actual one, I'm going to go like that. And the number on top is the number that we go through. So 2 or 4 will be Katerina. 1 and 3 will be Carolyn. Oh, fuck. What did I say? 2 and 4. I think I said 2 and 4 would be Katerina and 1 and 3 would be Carolyn. I think that's what I said. I'm going to say that's what I said. Hopefully y'all can keep me honest there. I'm pretty sure that's what I said. Okay. So I'm going to send the information, the link to Carolyn. How did I lose this? Oh no. Silly me. Okay. I must have closed that window. That was dumb. I was lacking foresight, wasn't it? Move this shit out of the way. Okay. Okay. Sent it out. And now I gotta open up the stories again because I screwed up. I closed the window out where I had them all open and lined up to go. Okay. Here we go. And I'm doing randomly. In a weird random way that nobody can see if it's actually random or not. But I promise you it's random. Or as good as random. Although you can't read your own story. That would give you an unfair advantage of reading a story you are already familiar with. Okay, here we go. Where'd my pointer go? I went outside. Sorry. Okay. I'm not sure. I'm not sure who this is. Wait a second. I don't know who this is. And I don't want to say their name. Shoot. The name of the story is 8-Year Locusts. So if the writer of 8 Year Locusts is here, if they could let me know. And Carolyn is in the green room, and I am sending the link to the doc. 8 Year Locusts is the name of the story. It is by someone's name, but I don't want to say their name. Writer of Minds, Captain Sakonna. That is who it is. Let me bring Carolyn in and see. We can see what's going on with sound and stuff. Hey, Carolyn, how are you doing? Oh,
Hi,
no.
I'm good. Hello. Hi, everybody.
We've got good sound right off the bat.
Great.
I'm pretty sure it's stereo. It is good to go. Were you able to get the link?
I do. Yes, I'm looking at the story. I have it in front of me, so I am ready to go whenever.
Do you think you could move a little bit to your left?
Or
is that? Or you know what? Actually, I can switch. Let me switch sides for us. That will, I think, recenter you a little better. There.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry about my janky webcam setup.
No, it sounds great.
Oh, that is weird. Okay.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay.
So, but you're going to be full screen in a second, anyway, because I'm going to
Okay.
leave and make dumb noises at certain parts of the story.
Fantastic.
So, 8 Year Locusts by Captain Sakonna, I think. Who I think that name is vaguely familiar to me. So that's what's happening now. Are you ready to take the floor?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, I'm turning it over to you, Carolyn.
All right. The 8 Year Locusts. Mom, do I have to come to the parade? Lisa sat on her bed and swung her legs. Her citizen's uniform lay beside her, where she had thrown it down 10 minutes ago. Of course! Alarm flitted across her mother's face. You don't want a mark on your record. But I don't feel good. They don't want you at civic festivals when you're sick. We don't have time to get a doctor's note. The alarm returned and settled in like a roving wolf who'd found a good place to sleep. What kind of sick? Why didn't you say something earlier? Because I was fine earlier, Lisa shrugged. I just feel really tired and a little achy all over, like I might be coming down with the flu. Lisa's mother bent close and laid a hand against her forehead. She stepped back and stood with pinched lips, worn, harried, enduring. Then her face cleared with the suddenness of decision. If it's only that, you'd better come. You can go to bed with some soup after. Put your uniform on. She turned and swept out of the room, showing Lisa her tight bun and the immaculate back of her dress jacket. Lisa got up, undressed, and sullenly pulled on the trousers. Truth be told, she did not feel that bad, but she already resented sanitization day, and this illness would add an extra layer of discomfort. Sand Day was, in fact, her least favorite of the mandatory festivals. Because why would you celebrate the day you had killed something? The day you'd sent it into non-existence? That felt like celebrating because you had not won an award, or not born a child, or not finished a project. Praising an emptiness, an absence. It made no sense. It made her mind itch. She dragged on the too-tight undershirt and buttoned the stiff jacket up to her neck. She went to the master bathroom and let her mother pull her hair into a bun. She passed her father, stumping around the kitchen, loading drinks into a cooler. Her little brother, Dwight, perched on a nearby chair, crammed into his own uniform and looking as if he'd forgotten how to move. They all piled into the car, parents in the front where they could set up the navigation, and kids in the back. Lisa ignored Dwight and stared out the window. The glass turned cloudy and a grid of video thumbnails appeared. You will arrive at Dempsboro Central Plaza in 35 minutes. Would you like entertainment? The car asked in its soft, neutered voice. Lisa stabbed the dismiss button, and the window cleared again, showing her the neighbor's house and the barren field it stood in. Dismiss button. Suddenly her vision flickered. The field and house washed out and... Suddenly her vision flickered. The field and house washed out and dimmed and cycled through several shades of blue-purple once, twice, 3 times. Then normal sight returned. Lisa gripped the door handle and glared at a clump of weeds to assure herself that her eyes still worked. I'm not having another attack. I haven't had one in years, so why now? It's just a flu. The car lurched into motion, and the weeds passed from view as it rumbled down the driveway. She turned her gaze to the back of the driver's seat, trying to slow her heart with deep breaths. Today marked 8 years since victory over the rogue artificial mind called Burrower, but it was also close to an anniversary far more personal to Lisa. 8 years and 4 days ago, she'd had the first dream. It had seemed harmless at the time, a six-year-old's fancy finding expression during sleep. But the many dreams that followed came during seizures or narcoleptic episodes, and she awoke with blood in her mouth or a lump on her head from a fall. She developed strange and shifting pains. Blood tests showed her immune system running riot. The doctors never found the proper cause. They offered medicine to control the symptoms and hope that the disorder might enter remission on its own. And in the end, it did, after disrupting her first 3 years of school and leaving her with a debt to the state. Her medical care had gone well beyond the yearly allotment for a child her age. She'd have to work that off once she finished her education. The car emerged onto the highway, joining a high-speed stream of traffic headed for Dempsboro. The rush of scenery past the window soothed Lisa a little. She let her mind wander, and its wanderings led it to the dream again. She only remembered it because it was the first. It was no more nor less strange than those that came after, but they became too numerous to recall and blurred together. This one had come while her mind was still unspoiled. In the dream, she was lying in her bed. From a window half open in the summer heat, a breeze reached in and touched her face. She turned to look outside, and there, rising up out of the darkness, was something wonderful. A bug as long as her whole arm, with iridescent eyes and shiny shell, was buzzing toward her window. Tiny lights gleamed like jewels from between the chinks in its armor. Every color glittered on its translucent wings. The fairy bug landed on Lisa's windowsill with a soft clank. That's a clank, all right, and peered in through the opening. It spoke to her in a raspy, husky voice. Whom would you like to be when you grow up? She sat up and stared. A frisson ran over her. Whom? I don't know, said Lisa. I was thinking maybe a programmer like Uncle Dave. She slid off the bed and approached the window, with her eyes locked on the bug's glowing form. Do you give wishes? Only one kind. The fairy bug climbed halfway in through the window gap. Why would you want to be a programmer? If you're a programmer, the computer will do anything for you. What do you wish it to do? I wish... Lisa paused, shivering again. Did she only get one wish? Was she making it now? This was dreadfully important. Computers, so powerful, so clever, so different. Uncle Dave said they thought in other ways than people. And yet, somehow, so empty, so dull. The fairy bug's wings quivered. Hurry, child, it's up to you, but you can't take forever deciding. Lisa said the words in a rush, before she could wonder whether they were right or not. I wish the computer would be someone. Your wish I grant. The bug took off and landed on Lisa's chest. Its multicolored glory awed her. She could feel its little claws digging through her nightshirt. And then it sidled over and bit her on the arm. Ow! Lisa cried. Ow! Get off me! She slapped the bug with her other arm. Her hand bounced off its cold, hard head. But the bug let go at once and flew back to the windowsill. Lisa clutched the pinched spot. You bit me! You made a wish, said the fairy bug. You will have to pay for it. All wishes are like that. And then it flew away into the warm, damp darkness. The dream shifted then and wandered through some more scenes, none of which she could remember later. She woke up with a fever and aching muscles. Sometimes our brains use things we're feeling in our dreams, her mother told her later, as she laid a wet cloth across Lisa's forehead. Maybe you dreamed a bug bit you because your arm was hurting. But why was it a fairy? Lisa asked. Who knows? Strange things happen when we're asleep. Usually there's no why. My brain must have been extra strange, Lisa thought to herself now, as the car swung onto the second Dempsboro off-ramp. My brain couldn't even run my body like it was supposed to. But that's all over now. It's just a flu. The civic festivals were so big that downtown Dempsboro couldn't have held all the cars. They had to park at the Starsky Convention Center and take a train to the plaza. Smartly dressed functionaries checked their names in a database and pinned plastic badges to their uniforms when they got on the train and when they got off. More officials directed them to the place they were to stand. The plaza was a sea of people, all poured onto its bricks with the greatest efficiency and precision, 4 square feet to each. Lisa knew that more citizens lined the path the parade would take through the city. One lucky year, her family had been among them. Today, all she could see past the crowd was the enormous screen that would broadcast the first staffer's address. As she glanced up at it, her vision flared with colors again. The scene's brightness pulsed for at least a quarter of a minute before returning to normal. Help! Why is this happening? What sort of virus could do this? There was nothing to do but try not to think about it and wait for the rest of the throng to be shuffled into position. It took almost another half hour while the sun beat on Lisa's head and sweat plastered her undershirt to her skin. Her father handed the drinks around and Dwight sat on the cooler. Lisa ached from her knees up to her shoulders. She could no longer tell whether this came from the flu or from standing too long in one position. The screen blazed to life with an animation of what Lisa could only describe as tech goo. It began with a green field. From up out of the grass sprouted a deranged clot of glowing light sticks, little metallic struts, and circuit components. They multiplied and grew across the viewing area. Devouring the lawn, a flower garden, a car, a tree, a house. The view zoomed out until it showed a whole neighborhood, soon covered by nothing but writhing, clicking metal. But then a flood of solvent spilled down from the screen's top and began away at the menace. It dissolved into the colors of the national flag. All rise! A voice boomed from the sound system. Lisa mouthed the words to the anthem, coaxing nothing but dry whispers from her throat. Her lungs felt husky. She almost wanted to cough, but could feel there was nothing to bring up. Amid the roar of thousands and the orchestra blaring from the speakers, no one noticed her lack of enthusiasm. The flag made way for a live feed of First Staffer Alamans. Behind her stoic face, her hair swept up into a bun that mirrored the one Lisa was wearing, except absolutely perfect, without a single loose strand curling in the humidity. The crowd fell into expectant silence. Fellow citizens, the first staffer began, her voice sliced through the heavy air like a katana. Today marks the 8th anniversary of a crucial victory, not only for our nation, but for every life on this precious planet we call home. 8 years ago today, the human spirit triumphed over the heartless devices of a madman. Just before the very first sand day, Lisa hadn't been thinking much about crucial victories or the power of the human spirit. She'd been thinking about her fever and wishing she could sleep it off in her own bed. But her family had lived too close to the sand zone, where the burrower was making its last stand. They had to pile into their car and go stay at a hotel, because the government said so. They hid beneath the ground, Alamans intoned. They crawled beneath the rocks. They gnawed their way inside the trees, the barns, the fence posts. But by the quick thinking and skills of our engineers and scientists, we found every last one of them. The cancer was destroyed. They hadn't been allowed to bring out anything made of wood, Lisa remembered. No wood, no cardboard, no books. The soldiers searched their luggage for anything that might hide fragments of the burrower and ran hand scanners over their car's upholstery. No machine, however adaptable and prolific, could stand against our... thanks to them, as long as civilization stands. Lisa blinked. What had the first just said? Oh no, she'd winked out. The last few seconds of her life were missing. Lisa flicked her eyes left, at her parents and at Dwight. None of them were looking at her. They gazed screenward with the same dull expression she was sure she'd been wearing until recently. I can't have been out too long then, and I'm still standing. And by the bravery of these sanitizers and the wisdom of those who built their tools, Alamans was saying. A spasm of weakness swept across Lisa's body. Her knees buckled. She staggered 2 steps forward and caught herself on a stranger's back. He took his eyes from the screen just long enough to turn and glare at her. Her father's hand came down upon her shoulder and drew her back into her tiny, assigned space. Are you feeling all right? She heard his voice behind her left ear, a strained, nervous rasp. His fingers were squeezing so hard it hurt. No. Lisa flung her eyes back up to the screen, trying to bring them into focus. I'm not all right at all. The first staffer's voice continued slicing at her ears. And in 8 long years, the enemy has never returned. 8 years of cleanliness and peace. Lisa's head went light. Her legs folded, and this time she couldn't halt her fall. She heard, but scarcely felt, her head bouncing off of someone's legs and slipping down to strike the bricks. Her eyelids started to flop closed. Today, we stand united and powerful, Alamans was screaming. Today, we put every wild, self-willed inventor on his notice. You will never build a mind that can supplant the will, the might, and the intelligence of the Standard Sanitization Corps. Lisa had time for one more thought before she blacked out. It's not the flu. It's starting again. Lisa awakened in a bed in a cool white room, surrounded by equipment that peeped and whirred softly. A hospital? Her narcoleptic episodes hadn't typically landed her in the hospital, but she hadn't typically fainted in the middle of a crowd on sand day either. There had been no dreams with this one, which by itself was odd. She tried to sit up and found that she could. There were monitors taped all over her, but she was otherwise unimpeded. Her head was clearing rapidly. She propped a pillow up behind her back and noticed an arm bandage, a sign that blood had been drawn. Great, more debts. A doctor or a nurse or someone showed up at the door within the next few minutes. He pulled a stool over and sat beside her bed. How are you feeling? Much better, Lisa answered. Once these episodes are over, they're usually just over. Can I go home? We'd like to keep you here for a few days of observation, the man said, folding his hands over his knees. You're not in any immediate danger, but we don't quite understand your test results. Your body is doing some very unusual things. We'd like to get them under control before you go back home. Lisa's voice was a dry whisper. What kind of things? I'll tell you more when I'm sure I know what I'm saying. As I said, we don't quite understand what the tests indicate. He stood up, patted her shoulder. Just rest for now. It's almost nighttime. Use the call button if you need anything. First thing tomorrow, I've got you scheduled for an x-ray. He walked out, and Lisa watched him leave, too flummoxed to ask the other questions boiling up inside her. How long was I under? Where are my parents? What on earth is the x-ray for? She adjusted her pillow and tried to get comfortable. There was nothing to do and no one to talk to. An attendant brought her a glass of water. A few hours slumped by, and slowly, subtly, out of the boredom, a thought crystallized. A sourceless but compelling thought. I've got to get out of this hospital. She started peeling electrode stickers off her chest and forehead. This done, she threw the cover off the bed and swung her feet to the floor. She wasn't that sick. Everything felt fine. she probably wouldn't have another narcoleptic incident for at least a few hours. I've got to get out of this hospital or they will kill me. Why do I think that? I don't have any idea. I just know it's true. She rifled through some cabinets looking for her clothes. She didn't find them. Well, she hated that uniform anyway. She pulled a sheet off the bed and threw it over her hospital gown. The hospital halls blazed with harsh fluorescent light, but they were mostly quiet and empty. A handful of people hurried by on errands. Lisa avoided them, and they were too busy to look into the distance and notice a disheveled girl in a sheet toga. A bit of wandering got her out of her patient ward. From there, it was a simple matter to find a stairway to the ground floor and an exit onto a loading dock. A moonless night lay beyond the service door. Stars sparked and glittered. Below, the lights of Dempsborough covered the landscape like spilled rubies. I'm being so silly, Lisa thought. They're not trying to keep me from escaping because I'm not a prisoner. They were never going to hurt me. But still, I've got to get out. Out! Out! The hospital stood at a development's edge, backed against some low hills. Lisa jogged across the rear parking lot, crawled under a fence, and began climbing the nearest. Dark though it was, she found she had little trouble seeing. Fresh night breezes buffeted her face and tried to tug the sheet from her clutches. Pebbles and weeds poked at her bare feet. She reached the hilltop. This is as good a place as any. I'd like to be further outside town, but everything is ready now. There's no more time. Again, without knowing why, she sank to her knees. And then her body started to split open. She felt the movements under her gown. She pulled it open and watched the process in fascinated terror. Slots were appearing in her skin, all over her torso. There was no pain and very little bleeding. The flesh simply pulled apart, as if she'd always had natural openings there and hadn't known it. Weird, chitinous forms emerged from the gaps. They came out wrinkled and folded. They then expanded and hardened as fluids inflated them. Armor grew over her chest and stomach. On her back, something more complicated was happening. She shed the gown as it became too small to hold. The thing that was growing from her. What is happening? The thought was a scream. She was struggling too hard for breath to scream aloud. Another thought came swift on its heels, inside her brain, yet not hers. You receive your wish. Lisa bent forward and gripped fistfuls of grass to steady herself. What wish? I never wished for this. Your name for us, continued the thought, not hers, is Burrower. More structures erupted from Lisa's skull, neck, lower back. She concentrated on not throwing up. It felt like the one thing she could control. When attacked, we are programmed to pursue dormancy, to hide until a time of safety when no one believes we still exist. We could not hide in the ground. We could not hide under the rocks. We could not hide in the trees. So we hid inside of you. The growth was stopping. Now Lisa only felt her appendages stretching and snapping into place, while her heart labored to fill the new blood vessels. We were a computer that was someone, and thanks to you, we still are. What have you done? Lisa replied in a panic. This stuff on my back, what is it? It makes more pieces of us. You will be a mother, a queen, a great someone, part of us. Our resurrection. I don't want it. Make it stop. It is far too late for that. You gave your permission. Lisa's breath was coming back. She drew it into her lungs and yelled, I was 6. I thought I was dreaming. So you fancied it a dream. Do you think that kept your soul from knowing what it wanted? You can't have me, Lisa said, grabbing for the sheet. She dragged it over herself, half concealing the insectile growths. I'll go back to the hospital. I'll get all this surgically removed. They'll fix my genes. I'll be in debt half my life, but I will work it off. They will kill you. No, they won't, Lisa said. Not if I tell them all about you. I'll be a hero, the girl who stopped your resurgence. What happened in the sand zone? What did they do to the trees? Lisa remembered. In the zone proper, the sanitizers hadn't bothered scanning. They had burned off everything above the surface and torched the ground with radiation. In a radius around it, they logged all of the trees and pulverized them. You are contaminated. They will never be able to assure themselves that you are fully cleansed. They will kill you. Lisa struggled to her feet. Her new organs hung neatly down her back, and the armor closed up over her front, covering her vulnerable spots. The weight balancing was a little awkward, but she thought she could still walk. She couldn't bear admitting it, but the burrower was right. There was no going back to the hospital. There was no going home. There would be no graduation or career assignment. She would never be a programmer or a technician or a citizen of any kind. What can I do? She asked the night sky helplessly. You can go to new places. You can be someone else. The burrower's thoughts developed a wry tone. You're the only human child I know of who ever became a fairy. Make the most of it. The search and rescue team found the sheet on the hilltop the next day, but they did not find Lisa. She was gone where they could never find her, beyond the borders of civilization, and beyond humanity. Perhaps she was gone to feed on sunlight and grow strong, perhaps to search for others of her own kind, more children who said yes when offered wonders by a fairy bug. For certain, she was gone to be a mother of the 8-year locusts.
Wow. Oh, let me. I got kind of caught up there in the end. Sorry, hold on. I'm coming back. That was great, Carolyn. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, I bet you have a thing for locusts.
You could say that. Yeah.
So I've, bet that story was handcrafted just for you.
It seemed at the end I was feeling like funny noises weren't quite so appropriate anymore.
It did take quite the unsettling turn. Yes,
yeah,
but
very the fly Kafkaesque kind of stuff going on there. That was great. And you did a fantastic job. I mean,
thank you.
Not that I expected anything less, but that was great. Thank you so much. That was 3,800 words again. Like usually, I guess when I kind of estimate how long it takes to read something aloud, I'm looking at it from like doing an ASMR perspective, and it would be like trying to fill up as much time as possible. Right?
Yeah.
Not what might just be appropriate, but that was great. How are you doing, by the way?
Yeah, pretty good. I'm doing pretty good. Isra asks in chat, I see, what was it like reading this? It was a lot of fun because I didn't know because it was a cold read, so I didn't know where the story was going. So I, it's sort of like, let's all find out together. So, I was very engaged as well by reading it. But yeah, I'm doing well. Yeah.
There's, I looked over all the stories just to make sure that there wasn't anything too out there, right?
Right. You had certain,
Yeah, I didn't do like a close read or like the kind of read that I'd want to, and I want to do that, but I haven't been able to do that yet. Certainly not for all of them, but for some of them. But I don't know that I'd say I've been surprised, but I've certainly been pleased to see that it seems like everyone. Actually, I guess I am kind of surprised. It seems like everybody is a good writer who submitted anyway. Like wrote stories that were enjoying to read and check out, and especially hearing someone else read it kind of adds another level to it and makes it even more enjoyable. As long as the person's doing a good job, which you definitely did. That was great.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's always.
And I appreciate all the kind words in chat as well, and definitely
people were saying they want to listen to you for 20 years.
Well, I had great material to work with, so my congratulations to the writer.
I have to get in touch with them because they're not regularly in chat. At least they're not regularly speaking in chat. They might be lurking or something. So
right.
Cool, but it's always good to see you, Carolyn.
Yeah,
and
you too.
Thank you for doing this. I know it takes a lot of effort.
Yeah, but it's a lot of fun too. So
Yeah,
it was my pleasure.
That
Yeah.
was great. All right, we'll talk soon.
You bet.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Wow, that was great. I didn't have to do anything tonight. That was wonderful. Thank you all. I'm gonna wrap up, I think. I don't know where we could go from here. I thought that was wonderful. And I don't want to, start another one because I don't want to feel like we gotta write out that another 30 minutes or what have you when we're over. We're at 2.5 hours now, so I think that's pretty good for me. I don't know if I think I've gone over. Like, I kind of want to trim these down a little bit to make them a little more manageable for me to do. And certainly, I can't talk a lot. I can just make troll-like noises while other people are talking. So we may do this again next week, or we may space it out a little more than that even, and try to keep a variety of things going. We'll see what's going on in the Discord and what the sort of general consensus is, and bow to the will of the Vox Populi, because that's what I do. It's just what I'm told to do. I noticed my volume was much lower there for this. Sorry. Louder. I'm louder now. But, so there's maybe going to do some Inside Number 9 on Sunday on Discord. That would be great. I would love to talk about which ones, because Series 6 was just released, and I didn't like it. Like, there wasn't... I couldn't find one episode that to me seemed very good. I don't think it's a good place to start if people have never seen Inside Number 9. So we can talk about that. But yeah, if y'all are around on Sunday, the only thing is I'm not 100% sure. I'll talk to you, Q, afterwards. Louder without Crowder. And we can figure it out, because the only thing is that if I have a pre-existing engagement on Sunday that I can't get out of, that would be the only thing that would stop me from attending. Otherwise, I would love to. So yeah, everybody have a good night. Have a good rest of your week. And, hopefully see you this weekend. And if not, see you on Wednesday. Yeah, this was fucking wonderful. Thanks, everybody.